of the Green Team home selling system. I'm very excited today to be talking about mental illness. It's a serious issue within our society today, and we are putting together an initiative called Team Up for Hope. The Green Team is doing that to raise awareness and also to raise funds for a great organization called NAMI. It's an acronym for National Association for Mental Illness. We're joined today by two people from the local NAMI chapters. I'd like to introduce everybody. Melissa's going to go ahead and put us in gallery mode. When you hear me talking about it, just wave your hand so that everybody can see who you are. Let's first start out with Marcy Felter. Marcy is the chair of the Education Committee and teaches a new class on borderline personality disorder. Welcome, Marcy. Thanks for being here. We also have Sheila Sutton. Sheila is a member of the board of directors and manages the lending library. Welcome, Sheila. Thanks for being here. And we also have two Green Team sales associates with us, both from Green Team New Jersey Realty. Two people who are on the Team Up for Hope committee and doing great things to help raise awareness and funds for NAMI. We'll start with Karen Gonen. Welcome, Karen. Thanks for being here. And also Pam Zukowski from Green Team New Jersey Realty. Welcome, Pam. Okay, so Marcy, why don't you go ahead? I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and we're going to talk about some statistics to start us off. Does that sound good?
Sure.
All right.
First of all, I'd like to thank Jeff and the Green Team for adopting NAMI Orange and NAMI Sussex for their Team Up for Hope charity. We really appreciate all the work that you've been doing on our behalf and on the campaign. We're very grateful. I'm going to start off with a statistic. 1 in 5. 1 in 5 people in America experience a mental illness. That means 1 in 5 children and 1 in 5 adults. In our community in Orange County, if we project that 1 in 5 figure onto our population, we come to just under 75,000 approximately that would be living with a mental health condition. That is a lot of need. When you think about it, 1 in 5, that's, if you know 5 people, 1 of them is likely living with a mental health condition. If you know 10 people, likely 2. If you know 15, 3, 24, 25, 5, and so on. That's a lot of people over the course of a lifetime. And we here at NAMI Orange are trying to address that need. To put a face on these statistics, I'd like to introduce my very dear friend and co-teacher, Sheila, who's going to tell you of her personal story with mental health crisis within her own family. Sheila?
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Jeff and Melissa and the rest of the Green Team for having us. I want to tell.
Very welcome.
Okay, I want to tell my story, and my story is one of hope and recovery. When I gave birth almost 44 years ago, I planned that perfect life. I counted all the fingers and toes. I had the perfect name picked out. What could go wrong? I did all those childhood things that our parents do to make those special memories. The vacations, the sports events, holidays, just like the ones I had growing up. I suffered through those teenage years, the driving, school stuff, his first relationships, just like my parents did. None of it prepared me for the challenges of mental illness, not for me and not for a lot of us. What came for me was pure robbery. Like someone or something in the dead of the night, taking away all that is precious to me. My hopes, dreams for my son was stolen from me. The time that followed was a battle. There were so many losses, few wins, and lots of tears. No one prepared me for the isolation, the shame from stigma that makes even a casual conversation with friends turn uncomfortable for everyone. I was a registered nurse in a children's ICU at a university setting, but still, no books, website, or therapists had prepared me for the effects of mental illness on my whole family, my entire family. This illness does not discriminate, but it does hold hostage to our hopes, our dreams, if we allow it. You see, my son was laughter, fun. He's the one you want to hold on to in a storm. sit next to on a roller coaster, or even be with in a rough wave while swimming. He's that guy. Those early years after high school, when my son lost his childhood friend to a drive-by, that and starting college, they say, first triggers. But all I saw was the spark that left my son. The genuine laughter that was once so spontaneous was replaced by paranoia and raging fits of unpredictable mood swings. I spoke to lots of therapists, doctors, case managers. They would use words like bipolar, schizoaffective disorder, he needs hospitalization. These would bring me to choking tears. Tears. How could they understand? How could this be happening to my family? My son was stuck in a place that only he saw. And all our love, we couldn't make a connection with him. The years and years of trial and error medication seemed to take him further away from us. Please, God, I remember praying, please, God, bring him back to us. The hospitalizations, his time spent in jail, more medication. My son at his 20s, it seemed the world was not ready. And even more importantly, no one was caring for the rest of my family. I remember NAMI reaching out to me from a friend that I met during one of my son's hospitalizations. That was over 12 years ago. I remember that first support group. I felt so safe. So when the tears fell, there was NAMI. When self-pity and guilt threatened to destroy my family, there was NAMI. They comforted me, educated me, and my family. And they showed me what hope looks like. They showed me that I was not alone. Programs like Family to Family and the family support groups, I was able to get the help my family and I needed. They offered me the tools for better communication with my son as well as his providers. I am forever grateful to NAMI. And this is what allows me to give back. As a volunteer, I am on the board at NAMI Orange. I'm also now trained to teach the family-to-family classes as well as NAMI Basics. I also trained and facilitate the same kind of support group that first helped me. I run the NAMI library where we loan out books on mental illness. But even while doing all this, I still get the support from the many families that participate in our programs. I believe we are all heroes, brave to step forward and shine light on the challenges of our family and loved ones. We also advocate for change in policy and laws. I want to thank Jeff, Melissa, and the Green Team and their help and letting those struggling with mental illness know that change is happening. Treatments are not just targeted on drugs, but the best treatment for our loved ones. That includes the physical, the social, the educational, as well as the mental health of our loved ones. And then there's NAMI. NAMI believes that family can make a big difference in the care of our loved ones and our families, helping families to move forward, to be stronger, so that their loved ones can live their best life. My son, now in his 40s, a father, raising a son, working, still has some challenges, but the losses have made us stronger. So my story of hope and recovery is the story of everyone that battles mental illnesses. The challenges and expectations may be different inside of each family, but the spirit inside of our loved ones is still strong and can move forward toward a meaningful recovery with our love and support. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sheila, for sharing that. That was moving, and it was really nice for us to hear that. And there's a fair amount of mental illness struggle within my family, as well as some friends that I have. So I am no stranger to mental illness whatsoever. And I lived what you said. And it's a big deal, and it's very hard, especially for people who are just, being thrust into it for the first time. So, it's very important for people like yourself and for those of us who are affected by this to speak up about it. And, I've got some great questions that have been sent to me that I'd like to ask you in a minute, but I think that Pam and Karen have some questions as well for you, if that's okay.
Yes.
Hi, Sheila. How are you?
Hey, how are you?
Good. That was a very heartfelt story you gave. I have mental illness in my family. Who doesn't? And it was nice to hear that there is a place now, or has been, that I didn't know about till recently. So, how did you? That's what I wanted to ask you. How did you first learn about NAMI? Like how?
As I said, my son was hospitalized. This was maybe 14 years ago, and I met a friend whose son was also hospitalized, and we kind of connected. And she had been going to a support group that was further away from me, but I started out going to the family support group. And that's when I was introduced to the various programs and NAMI had to offer.
Okay, so it was a NAMI support group that you went to?
Yes, it was a NAMI family support group. It's a group of, when you come in, it's like everyone has the same issue. There's no difference, color, creed, education. Everyone has one thing in common: mental illness. And that brings us together and makes us stronger. Great support.
So on that note, let's Marcy was going to give us an overview of the NAMI's peer programs, so on and so forth. So Marcy, why don't we take a couple minutes and do that right now? You can highlight what you guys have to offer.
Absolutely. Sheila's story is very moving, and it's not unique in that it is a story of many, if not all of us in NAMI. And we say that mental illness is not a casserole illness. When someone has a psychotic break in the family and has to be hospitalized, the neighbors do not line up to bring a casserole. We do not find cards in our mailbox for well wishes and get well soon, or offers to drive our children, our other children, or children to school or piano lessons. The view of mental illness as opposed to physical illness is very different, and that's stigma that Sheila so eloquently spoke about. So what we try to accomplish at NAMI, it's a threefold mission. We attempt to educate, advocate, and support those who are living with mental health conditions and their families. And we seek to achieve that on three levels. We address it in the community, in the family, and in the individual. So for our community programs, we have wonderful outreach programs. We have Ending the Silence, which both NAMI Sussex and NAMI Orange participate in, where we go into our local schools. We educate our audience on mental illness, what the warning signs are, resources if you are concerned that yourself or a loved one is exhibiting signs of mental illness. And most importantly, we say it out loud. If you are seeing something that's concerning you, say it out loud. And we're starting the conversation in the community about mental illness. It needs to come out of the closet and out into the light. So that's primarily, we have a presence at community health fairs, festivals, Y2 Kids. We bring a table with pamphlets. We're prepared to answer questions. And you'd be surprised how many people, young people, come up and say, my mother has bipolar, or my father has depression. I'm worried about myself. What are the chances that I'll develop this? What can I do to improve my mental health? Questions that they have, but they don't feel comfortable asking in their everyday environments. So that's a primary concern for us. The other programs we have that address families are, as Sheila said, Family to Family, which is a class education program where we educate family members on medication classes and how to advocate for their loved one who often cannot advocate for themselves in the midst of a mental health crisis. We have classes on coping skills and communication with your loved one who's in a mental health crisis. These are all really important things, and it provides a tremendous amount of support. And the education and the mental health awareness reduce the stigma. And that is so very important, because as we reduce the stigma, people are more willing to talk about it. And earlier intervention means earlier diagnosis, which means earlier treatment, which always accounts to better outcome. So this is very important. We also have classes like NAMI Basics, where we educate and help the parents and caregivers of school-aged kids. Because obviously, if you have a school-aged child or teen, it's a different battle than if you have an adult with mental illness. We teach them how to navigate in the school system and keep proper records, all the things that we might not know when we're hit with a mental health crisis. Very, very enlightening class. We also at NAMI Orange are hosting a NEA BPD course, which is National Education Alliance on Borderline Personality. It's a family connections course, which is for families of those living with borderline personality disorder. And it is the first class in Orange County of its kind. It teaches DBT skills and communication and coping skills for families in those cases. We also have, as Sheila spoke about, the family support groups, which, as you heard Sheila's story, are absolutely vital for people to be able to come at any time, at any place, to discuss and get support on their situation. We also minister to the individual in that we're addressing we have a connection support group, which is specifically for people living with a mental health condition, where they can go for support and talk about their issues with other people who are in recovery. And in each one of these situations, the program is free. If it's a NAMI signature program, it is free, and it is run by what we call a peer run, which means that the people teaching family to family are people like Sheila and myself, who are ourselves are family members of people living with mental health conditions. The people who are running the connections group are people themselves who are living with mental health conditions, and so on. So these are really important programs. And I know NAMI Sussex actually has a unique program that they've developed. It's a specific connections group that is open to veterans, police, and first responders for those living with post-traumatic stress disorder. And that's been a wonderful addition to their community. So I want to thank you again so much, Jeff and the whole Green team, for all your work to help us to support these programs. And I want to thank the donors, because without your generosity, our work would be impossible. Thank you.
Yeah, and on that note, and this is where, it's like, you're waiting for this like gotcha thing. I mean, the thing that's amazing to me is these are all volunteers, right? I mean, this is a totally volunteer-based organization at the local chapter level for Orange and NAMI Orange and NAMI Sussex.
Absolutely.
So all of these programs that Marcy's talking about is led by volunteers, so that when you make a donation to NAMI, which is what we're trying to do over the month of October here through Team Up for Hope, the checks get written directly to NAMI. If you donate online through Facebook, it goes directly to NAMI. And they're using that money for hard costs. It's not going to salaries to, pay people. These are all volunteers, which is just amazing. One conversation about this topic of mental illness can go on for hours, so the amount of hours that these people put in is remarkable. God bless you guys for doing what you do. All right, Karen, do you have any questions? Or Pam asked hers. Karen, why don't you go? You had a question before.
Sure, actually I did. And this is for Sheila. What advice can you give someone who is dealing with mental illness or has a family member who is suffering from mental illness?
Good. That's a good question. Educate yourself. Do everything you can to educate yourself. Because unlike cancer or diabetes, mental illness, there's no tests that's specifically for mental illness. So the more educated you are, the treatment and the disease itself, it varies from person to person. I think Marcy said also, no one size fits all. And also, as Marcy said, early intervention promises better outcomes, the studies show. And then there's NAMI Basics and NAMI Family to Family. And it shows us how to cope with our loved one's condition and to manage their recovery.
Mm.
I have to say, one of the things that I did learn from us working with both NAMI Orange and NAMI Sussex is how widespread this is and how taboo it is to talk about it. And I've noticed that there's so many people out there that do need this help. For instance, I went down to one of the institutions in town just to see if they'd be willing to sponsor or perhaps advertise our campaign for NAMI. And it turns out that one of the young women that was working there, her son was actually dealing with mental illness and she didn't know what to do. And she ended up reaching out to NAMI and getting the help that she needed. She said she had no clue that there was all this support out there and all she had to do is just reach out to you guys to get that help. And I was so happy to hear that, because God forbid if that were me, I wouldn't know where to turn. And Sheila, from your story, I put myself where I would never, I can't imagine what you have been through, and you described it so well. My heart was breaking as you described your son being kidnapped with this illness, and I can only imagine how helpless you felt as you were dealing with this, and to know that there is an organization out there that is run by people that have been through it. These are not people that are looking down at you and trying to help you and tell you what to do. These are people that have actually dealt with it themselves. I think it's such a wonderful concept, knowing that these are people that have gone through it. So for you to talk to someone that knows where you're at, I think it's such an advantage. The fact that you guys are there, you're available to educate and advocate on other people's behalf is just such a gift, that you're willing to donate your time and whatever resources you can to help others. And this just makes me personally feel so much better that this is the cause that the Green Team has chosen to advocate for and to advertise, to get out there.
Okay, that was good. Thank you for that. I just, I'm getting some information in questions, hands raised, this, that, the other thing. One thing that's a good point is that it's important to point out that NAMI doesn't help with treatment. They're the support system for the treatment, for the doctor, so on and so forth. Right, Marcy? Do you want to just comment on that little nuance there? That's very important.
Absolutely. Our sole purpose is to educate, advocate for, and support. We are not affiliated with any hospital, practitioners, nor do we advocate for anybody to go to a specific practitioner or hospital or medication. We are not allied with any drug companies, anything. What makes us unique is that we stand alone. Our only purpose is to make the life of those living with mental illness better for them and for their families. That's it.
Well said. Well said. All right, here's a question that came in. This is a good one. My friend's son has been in the hospital for over a week because of some kind of mental illness. I haven't called her because I don't know what to say, and I don't want to say the wrong thing and maybe embarrass or upset her. I'd like to call, but what should I say? Isn't that a good question?
Yeah. Great question. It's a great question.
So Sheila or Marcy, go ahead and feel free to.
Sheila, do you want to take that question?
You can add on. I just want to say, listen. You have to listen. Listening is so important. Sometimes people, they know the answers themselves. They know what it is that what they're trying to say. They just want you to listen to them. That's the most important thing. If you want to guide them, actually NAMI, I was just reading an article, NAMI.org does offer in their website things that you can do. I think there's 5 strategies you can do to help someone who's going through a mental illness with their loved ones. But listening, I remember that being a key point.
Mm.
Yes, and I would add to that, that was a very good point, Sheila. I would add to that non-judgmental listening.
Yes.
So often what makes people reluctant to share what's going on is the fear that they're going to be judged, specifically as a family member and absolutely as parents when somebody is going through a mental health crisis. So when we listen, we need to make sure that we're listening without a judgment in there.
Yeah, and I want to add one thing just because I've been in these situations before, and I recently heard, I can't remember if it was maybe Melissa emailing me, this, that, the other thing, but this was such a good point. You know, if let's say it's your cousin, right, who's dealing with this issue. If your cousin had a heart attack and was in the hospital for a heart attack, you would go and you'd visit. You'd bring some flowers. You'd sit next to their bed for a few hours and chit chat with them to make sure everything was going well. There's no reason why you shouldn't be doing the same thing for somebody who has a mental illness. It's the same deal, right? They need support. They need love. There's no reason to hide it or be ashamed about it.
And actually, a mental health hospitalization often is longer than a physical health hospitalization.
Sure. Okay. I'd say we have time for one more question. Karen or Pam, do you want to go with it? Karen went last. Pam, do you have one more you'd like to ask?
Sure.
Sorry to put you on the spot, Pam.
Yeah, the thought left my mind. Karen, you can go ahead.
Go ahead and take it away if you've got one. If not, that's okay too. Karen, your mic is muted. Just go ahead and unmute yourself.
I do have a question. So as a community member, not necessarily someone directly affected by mental illness, what is the most important thing that I could do to help those in my community?
I would say, again, educate yourself. There are courses like mental health first aid that you can take. You can sign up for in the community. There is a link to that. I believe you're going to be putting up at the end of the webinar. That's a great place to start. That'll teach you the basics and the warning signs and tell you about some resources. Educate yourself and help to raise mental health awareness, which is what you're doing. We're starting the conversation. And the more that we talk about it, the less stigmatizing it will be.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so let's take care of some housekeeping items that Marcy just mentioned. So here are some very important links, phone numbers, email addresses, so on and so forth to get you connected. You know, feel free to pause this if you're watching the recording and you have everything that you need right there. Hang on one second. And then the other thing that I just wanted to say is, look, you know, we're trying to raise money for these ladies and their organizations so that they can do more good with that money and provide more services, so on and so forth. So we have set up, as part of our initiative, a website at hope.greenteamhq.com. I'm going to share one more time here. That URL again is hope.greenteamhq.com. It'll get you here at the Team Up for Hope webpage on the Green Team website. And here's ways that you can donate. You can just click on this if you want to donate to NAMI Orange or NAMI Sussex. There's a mail-in or drop-off donation if you are a business and you want to become a corporate sponsor and you want to have your logo and your link to your company and website, so on and so forth. You can be part of this page here. So we're just really getting going here, and we're hoping that we can close out the month of October with thousands of dollars raised, but we need your help. So thanks in advance for checking out hope.greenteamhq.com. Let's say goodbye to all of our panelists. Thank you, Karen, Pam, Marcy, Sheila, and of course, Melissa, for engineering all of this and being our production person to do all this and putting it all together. So thank you, everybody, for your time, and go NAMI.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.